A long day at Nashville just wrapped up. Probably going to be up at like 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning. Welcome back to the episode of MDK Racing Victory Stop. My name is Jet. Hope you're all having a wonderful day, or I should say wonderful morning. Yeah, we got some stuff to talk about here. This race had a lot of good and bad. There was a lot of good things that we need to talk about. There were some concerning things, and I would even question some favoritism from NASCAR that we need to discuss later in the race. But we're going to jump into it to the end of the race, because that is where things got really intense. We begin with 44 laps to go, though this took place during the final round of pit stops. Everyone making their scheduled pit stop cycles. In the middle of that, however, Chris Buescher in a 17 car having a solid run inside the top 10 for majority of the race. His right rear tire, he is gone, out of it. That results in a 4-week suspension for not only the crew chief, but also the jackman and the tire changer, an absolutely costly mistake by the 17 team. That, of course, brings out a caution. On a restart, Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott are battling side by side for the lead, but Chase Elliott prevails and actually builds up a gap for a little bit. Kyle Busch then closed up the gap, but wasn't able to pass him because of the dirty air. Even though this next-gen car, the idea was so that it would clean up the air for the driver behind, didn't really work that well, at least for Kyle Busch standards. It did work for other drivers in the race, but for Kyle Busch, did not work at all. All Chase needed to do was just be in front of Kyle Busch's line, and he was basically golden. But even without, with that in play, Kyle Busch, his car was just gone after a few laps of trying to charge up to the back bumper. Chase, he just lost the car, had no grip. Chase Elliott was driving away what many seem to be a fairly easy win until the caution comes out. With 10 laps to go when Josh Bilicki expires an engine, that sets up a very critical last minute decision on whether you pit or not pit. Chase Elliott decides to stay out. Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., Ross Chastain, Kevin Harvick, and Michael McDowell, those drivers come onto pit road. So because of that, now you have Chase Elliott leading, you have Kurt Busch in second, Blaney third, Larson fourth, and Cindric the top 5. Kyle Busch comes in second, comes out 11th. He has to gain 10 spots with 4 laps to go, and went the exact opposite of well. With Kyle Busch that far back in the pack, just outside the top 10, it created a stack up. Kyle Busch lost a ton of positions as a result of that. Chase Elliott was scooting away. But then a crash happened in turns 3 and 4 with Brad Keselowski in another car. And according to NASCAR, how they officiate things, to me, this would be clear as day a caution. But Chase Elliott is leading. Not only that, you then had Brad Keselowski literally limping right across the start finish line, was limping and limping and limping as the Chase Elliott was coming around to 2 laps to go, come around and take the white flag. Brad Keselowski, clearly he's in trouble. Clearly his car has an issue. There was still no caution, surprisingly. And remember, this is NASCAR we're talking about. How they have officiated races, they have called cautions for such less incidents. I'm not even counting Texas. Even outside of that, the All-Star race, there have been a lot of incidents this season that weren't as bad as Keselowski's that they've thrown the caution for. And I'm assuming that, NASCAR is all about entertainment. They would have thrown the caution out to set up a green-white checkered moment. But Chase Elliott was leading. I mean, I'm not going to confirm saying there was some favoritism, but when you know NASCAR and their history, they tend to favor drivers. That's just how they've done things in the past. So it's kind of hard to shake that off as just, NASCAR was just trying to finish the race in, when you look at the history of NASCAR, it's not out of the question of maybe a term of favoritism. Maybe. Who knows? But regardless, Chase Elliott opened up to about a 5 to 6 tenths of a second of a lead over Kurt Busch, and he'll go on to win for the 15th time in his Cup Series career, his second win of 2022. And this is a cool little stat. Once again, he wins on concrete. Both of his wins in 2022 have both come on concrete. We go back to Dover for his first win of the season, and both have came in a rain-delayed race. Dover was postponed to Monday, and Nashville obviously had that 2-hour rain delay to race under the lights. Here's a look at the race results. Chase Elliott wins. Kurt Busch in second place. Ryan Blaney. Now, Ryan Blaney had a very interesting day. He was up in front of the pack around the top 10. early in the race. Then with 96 laps to go, he spun off of turn number 4 when the track went to the nighttime. Ryan Blaney's car was just off the pace. He was just nowhere near the front of the pack like where he was when the track was in the daytime. And then somehow he manages to come home in 3rd place. Kyle Larson had a iffy day. He had some flashes of speed, but was just never there. Never really had a top 10 car, but somehow pulls off a 4th place finish. Ross Chastain in 5th, and Denny Hamlin finishes in 6th. Those two drivers, they came onto pit road for tires. They wound up finishing nose to tail. Austin Cindric, another driver that had a really just bad day. He showed no speed at all. Rebounds for a great 7th place finish run. Christopher Bell 8th. Joe Logano, another driver, showed virtually no speed all race long. Finishes inside the top 10 with Kevin Harvick in 10th place. Eric Jones 11th. Bubba Wallace in 12th. Michael McDowell 13th. Austin Dillon 14th. Daniel Suarez 15th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 16th. Eric Almirola 17th. Tyler Reddick 18th. AJ Allmendinger 19th. And Corey LaJoie round to the top 20. Kyle Busch would lose 10 positions on that restart. Mark Truex Jr. also loses 10 positions on that restart. 21st and 22nd. Justin Haley 23rd, Todd Gilliland 24th, Harrison Burton 25th, Cole Custer, Cody Ware, JJ Yeley, Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, Ty Dillon, BJ McLeod, Josh Bilicki, Chase Briscoe, William Byron, and Alex Bowman rounds out the field. Let's look at the playoff grid after Nashville. Chase Elliott now becomes the top seed in the playoffs, 13 playoff points for him. Nothing changes in the top 12. Ryan Blaney and Mark Truex Jr. once again still 13th and 14th, plus 112 for Blaney, plus 73 for Truex. Bell now opens up to a 37-point lead. Kevin Harvick now is in the top 16, plus 6 ahead of his teammate, or plus 9 I should say, ahead of his teammate Eric Almirola. Tyler Reddick minus 52, teammate Austin Dillon minus 53, and Eric Jones rounds at the top 20 minus 58. Now, this race had a lot of great moments. First off, the racing. I mean, the racing, we knew rain was going to be a factor. We knew that since the beginning of the race. Multiple times the race got delayed because of a lightning strike, but that was part of the bad. The good was, again, awesome racing throughout the entire race, in the daytime and in the nighttime. We saw a lot of side-by-side racing for the lead, especially between Mark Truex Jr. and Denny Hamlin. Those two drivers went back and forth, back and forth. One driver would pass a driver, open up to a lead. That other driver would close up, pass him right back. Those two drivers were battling for virtually the entire race long, and it seemed as though it was going to be either one of those two drivers going to victory lane. We even had some 3-wide racing. I talked about it with Hamlin and Truex. Sometimes there were even battles with Ryan Blaney in the mix when they were battling for a couple laps or so, and it was just awesome to see that you could race side by side and the driver on the inside wouldn't lose it because of how sensitive the air was. Same thing later in the race between Truex, Chastain, and Harvick in stage 3. They were 3 wide for, I think, 2 laps straight. They just could not get away with from each other. It was awesome to witness. And Martin Truex Jr. specifically, he had, I feel like, the best car. He was flying, especially on restarts early in the race on that outside lane. He was just able to pass multiple cars like nothing on that outside lane on those restarts. He had, I feel like I said, the best car of the race. Truex led 76 laps. Hamlin led 110, but I felt like Truex just had the fastest car. He was always able to hunt down on Denny Hamlin and vice versa, but I felt like Truex had just had a little bit better of an edge ahead of Hamlin, but those two had the fastest cars the entire race. And Hamlin finished 6th, but Truex, with that strategy, ended up losing. Like I said, lost 10 spots to finish 22nd. The Hendrick drivers, William Byron and Alex Bowman, they were both taken out in 1 lap. Byron had to retire due to a steering rack issue. Alex Bowman got wrecked by Corey LaJoie, and he didn't make the damaged vehicle policy, and he was DNF'd. He DNF'd the race because he failed to make minimum speed limit. But yeah, overall, I felt like there was some great racing. The broadcast from NBC, I think that broadcast proved to me how much we all miss NBC. They blew Fox out of the water. Their detailed explanation on describing some of the effects with the next-gen car, with the tires, and how the aerodynamic really works with the next-gen car. How they talked about strategy throughout the entire race. It kept you engaged, and it just felt like they were really taking it seriously. NBC makes Fox look ridiculous, how they did the race. It was absolutely incredible how they broadcasted the race. It was night and day between NBC and Fox. So very happy NBC is going to be taking over for the rest of the season. Hopefully, I mean, maybe the next TV deal, they can take on the full season. I'd be perfectly okay with that. But that was another good thing. The bad thing, of course, was the weather just did not cooperate at all. It was weird starting it at 5 p.m., obviously, you know, because of the heat. Don't know who decided to put it in June in the first place. But anyways, I digress. It was just a bad combo from the beginning when they started it so late, putting it at one of the hottest times of the year, holding the event, and then the lightning strikes and the rain delays. It killed the momentum of the race because at the beginning, it was turning out to be a great day, and then the weather just kind of just killed the vibe. But still, great racing. But really, when you take a step back and look at it, it was a Toyota day. All 4 Joe Gibbs drivers showed speed. Even Bell was up front there. Busch leading laps. Truex and Hamlin led 2 of the most laps of the entire race. And even the 2311 cars with Kurt Busch, he showed some speed. Was in the top 10 for a good portion of the race, finishing in second. And Bubba Wallace, I'm telling you, he's probably one of the most if not the most unluckiest driver in NASCAR right now. He had a top 10 car, maybe even a top 5 car. He started in 30th, drove his way up towards the front. And then, of course, as usual, his pit crew absolutely screws him over, has a loose wheel. Then Booty Barker's crew chief's ordering him to stop. He stops, and then Tyler Reddick runs in the back end of him. They then had another issue on pit road. He went a lap down, then spent the entire stage to get back on the lead lap. Then was in 10th place, was still able to drive his way back up to 10th place, even after all the crap he had to deal with his pit crew. And then when Chris Buescher brought out the caution, he was on pit road, so he got trapped a lap down. Somehow finished 12th. He was able to stay out on that final caution, like when Chase Elliott stayed out. So he was able to get a 10th or 12th place finish, but easily could have been with the leaders. I mean, I feel so bad for Bubba. He deserves so much more. The Fords didn't show up at all, except for Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick was the best Ford driver. He didn't lead any laps, but he was the most consistent, was in the top 5, top 10, virtually the entire race. Didn't have race-winning speed, but he was there. He just showed flashes of speed. Was able to run up to 3rd and even 2nd place at one point in the race, late in the race. So he showed speed, but didn't have a race-winning car. Team Penske, again, they had flashes with Ryan Blaney, but that was basically it. Austin Cindric charged up late. Joe Logano, even though he finished 9th, he didn't have the speed at all for virtually the entire race long. In the Chevy camp, it was funny with Chase Elliott. He was there. He was in the top 10, but he didn't seem like he showed any race-winning pace. And then came out of nowhere late in the race run, was able to get fresher tires, was able to get an advantage on the drivers ahead of him, like Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, and Mark Truex Jr. Was able to drive his way up to the front and was able to hold a lead when it mattered most. But yeah, it was overall, I felt like it was a really good race. There were some issues, like I said, with the aero problems with dirty air. Still, when you're trapped behind another car, it seemed as though when you're side by side with a car, there's no issues with it. You can race side by side with each other, but still nose to tail is an issue, apparently, at least according to Kyle Busch. And I noticed that when a lot of drivers, if you wanted to get ahead of someone, especially the leader, you had to drive or race in a different lane. But there were also some points in time during the race where a driver could just drive up to the race leader and just pass him with ease without any aero issues. But majority of the time, you wanted to get by the leader, you had to pick a different lane. So still dirty air matters, but not as much in the sense of when you race side by side with someone, you can still, keep in line with the driver on your outside. But still, nose to tail is still an issue. But yeah, I'm excited for these next stretch of races. I'm looking at my phone right now. You got Road America, Road Course next weekend. Then you got Atlanta Super Speedway, big wild card race, New Hampshire Motor Speedway. I mean, Eric Almirola put out a surprise win of his ass there, could produce another winner. A triangle racetrack in Pocono, the Indy Road Course, Michigan, then Richmond, Watkins Glen. Then we wrap it up with Daytona. We have a very interesting, cool stretch of races coming to the finish of the NASCAR regular season. I'm excited for it. Could we hit 17 winners? Maybe. Who knows? It's still a possibility. But yeah, that's going to conclude this episode of MDK Racing Victory Stop. Tell me, what do you guys think of the race in the comment section down below? Did you like it? Did you not? What are your thoughts on NASCAR not throwing the caution at the end of that race? Because I felt like they should have. And they probably would have if Chase Elliott wasn't leading. But that's just my theory. Take it with a grain of salt. But thank y'all so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. Congratulations to Chase Elliott, your winner at Nashville.